is also known as the y-intercept. Y-intercept. And if you remember, when you have an equation in standard form, your y-intercept is one of the things that you can read from the equation, and it is your c value. Remember, A, B, and C, your c value is the y-intercept. So in this case, the initial height is going to be 2.5 meters. And then to ask, like, how do you know? You can say that the y-intercept is 2.5 meters. The initial height has to be the y-intercept. The daily profit made by a game manufacturer is modeled by the equation given, where P is profit and X is the price of each game. Determine the x-intercept of this equation. What do the x-intercept represent in this situation? Explain. So here we have a quadratic equation given in not vertex form, not standard form. This is a different form. It's called factored form. And when it's written in this form, it's very easy to determine the x-intercepts. So vertex form, easy to determine the vertex. Standard form, easy to find the y-intercept. And factored form, easy to find the x-intercepts. So how do I find x-intercepts? Easy. The definition for x-intercepts is when your y value is equal to 0. So y value is 0. In this case, y would be the profit is 0. Your p-value is 0. 0 is equal to negative 10. So your a value is this value in front here. 10 is your a value. In case you're wondering, every form has an a value. So vertex form, standard form, factored form all have an a value. Sometimes the a value is 1, so you don't really see it, but it's there. And the first step is to always divide both sides by that a value to just simplify everything. I'll give you a hint. Anything like 0 divided by anything, it's just 0. Try it in your calculator. Very easy. Really interested in are these brackets here. When you have an equation that's set up like this, where you have 0 is equal to, and then 2 brackets multiplying each other, you're allowed to split this into 2 separate equations. And those 2 equations are just going to be the first bracket by itself equal to 0, and the second bracket by itself equal to 0. That's it. This is how easy it is to solve this. Now this is a simple one-step problem. Bring that number over. We have x is equal to 60, or x is equal to 15. Those are your x-intercepts, and there's 2 x-intercepts. It doesn't necessarily have to be 2 x-intercepts, but in this case there are 2 x-intercepts. So what does it mean? What do the x-intercepts represent in this situation? Explain. Maybe. Okay. So the x-intercepts represent well, if you remember correctly, what did I say P was? P was profit. And what value did you give the profit? 0. So the x-intercepts represent when your profit is 0. Oh, it's okay. You can turn the light off. So when profit is 0, or also known as your break-even point. So in business, this is important because this is the point in which you figure out when you have no loss and no profit. It's your break-even point. So at this point, it's very important to figure out you're not making any money, but you're not losing any money. So this is a turning point where if you go a little bit above, now you start making money, or if you go below, then you start losing money. So it shows you if your business is profitable or not. It's your break-even point. So what exactly is it saying? Well, if it's X is 15 or 60, what does that mean? Well, X represents the price of the game. So if we are selling the game for $15, we're not going to make any profit. But also if we sell the game for $60, we're not going to make any profit. So that means for us to maximize our profit, it's probably going to be somewhere between $15 and $60. So $15 meaning, the cost is too low. We're selling it too cheap. We're not making any money. Maybe our expenses are too high. But if we sell it for $60, maybe it's so expensive that nobody's really buying it, that we're also losing money, or in this case, breaking even. All right. Here we have the equation is given there. Gives the height h in meters of a flare. T seconds after it's fired. How long is the flare in the air? Wow. Okay. So just to visualize this, sometimes it's always nice to draw a mini graph just to make sense of things, Right away, this is in standard form. I know that this is my A value, this is my B value, this is my C value. I know that my C value is also my y-intercept, so I know that this is going to be 25. And I'm pretty confident that this is going to go up and obviously eventually come down and hit the ground there. That's obviously time, and this is obviously height in meters. Now, question is, how long is the flare in the air? Well, it's from here all the way to this point here. Time it takes to go from here to there. This point, what is this point? I'll give you a hint. It's the x-intercepts. So we need to find the x-intercept. How do we find the x-intercept? Well, when it's in factored form, it's a bit easier. When it's in standard form, you have to use something called the quadratic formula. Quadratic formula is something you should have memorized by now. It was talked about a lot in grade 10. It is x equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. This is the quadratic formula. What this does, it helps us find the x-intercepts when the quadratic equation is given in standard form. So I repeat, when you have a parabola or a quadratic function in standard form, use the quadratic formula to find the x-intercepts. So let's do it. to use the quadratic formula, all you need to do is to substitute your A, B, and C values in the correct positions and make sure you know how to do basic algebra. So B is 20. This is going to be negative 20 plus or minus square root. We have 20 squared minus 4 times negative 5 times 25. All over 2 times negative 5. Out of 20 squared is 400. And 4 times 25 is 100 times 5 is 500. And it's plus 500 because negative 4 times negative 5 is going to be a positive number. It's going to be positive 20, and 20 times 25 is 500. This is going to be negative 10. So now we have an equation like this. At this point, if your square root is a decimal, I want you to use that decimal. But we don't have to worry about that. We have nice even numbers right now. When you get to this step, you split the equation into 2 steps like we did previously, because it's possible to have up to 2 x-intercepts. You can also have less. A lot of students don't understand this. It's possible to have 1 x-intercept, and it's also possible to have 0 x-intercepts. Those are all possibilities. Anyways, for this equation, what we're going to do is we're going to split it into negative 20 plus 30 over negative 10, and negative 20 minus 30 over negative 10. The reason why we're splitting into 2 separate equations is because of this plus minus thing. You have to do the plus separately and you have to do the minus separately. It's possible to get up to 2 x-intercepts. Negative 20 plus 30, that's just 10 over negative 10. That's just negative 1. Negative 20 minus 30 is negative 50 over negative 10, which is just 5. So your first x-intercept and your second x-intercept are negative 1 and positive 5. How long is the flare in the air for? Well, in this case, your x value is really your t value, right? Because that's what's on your x-axis. So time 1 and time 2. Time 1 at negative 1 seconds means that if I extend this here, negative 1 here, that's what that means. It means that there's an x-intercept at negative 1 seconds. But that doesn't affect us. We don't really care about that negative dimension. What we do care is that it's 5 seconds here. That means the height of the flare is going to be 0, meaning it's going to be on the ground. That's what it means to have a height of 0. The thing is on the ground. So the height of the item is 0. It's on the ground at 5 seconds, meaning it's going to be in the air for 5 seconds. So how long is the flare in the air? The flare is in the air for 5 seconds. Make sure you write that down. Make sure you explicitly say reject this answer. Make sure you explicitly write that somewhere in your assignment if you ever have a quiz or a test. And make sure you write a statement saying the final answer is 5 seconds. If you don't do that, you will lose marks if you just left it as T1 equals this and T2 is that. So that shows me that you don't exactly know what the question is asking. Important things to consider.